Hello. Hey guys. So I've made a slight change for the time. If you get so I generally doing live on Wednesday at 6 p.m. But turns out that a lot of people are driving at that time, so it just didn't feel right to be doing it at that time because a lot of people couldn't join. And then they were sending in questions later on. Let me know if you guys can hear me. And anything that, and if you missed the live, that's okay. A lot of this gets posted online afterwards. I want to share something very particular about the Dubai market, and this goes to speak about the regulation in the Dubai market. Here's the thing, a lot of people are investing in Dubai for a lot of reasons, but it is no longer a market which is an emerging market. So generally speaking, in real estate, with emerging markets, what you generally have is very high rewards because the risks are higher. But the Dubai market is no longer an emerging market. We're about 20 years old and we're going towards more maturity, which means that the regulation around the protection of the developers, investors, and the stakeholders, etc., is increasing now. So what you need to do actually, in short form, is understand that in the Dubai market, the risks have gone fairly down. Like, there's laws that protect your investments. There's escrow laws. There's more clarity. There's more transparency. Before we had developers producing brochures sometimes and not actually commit to delivering what was being advertised in their brochures. We now have, generally speaking, the RERA, which is Real Estate Regulatory Agency, has a fairly tight grip on making sure that everybody, generally speaking, is following the law, right, and the rules. So the brokers need to do that, the developers need to do that, the investors, they've got to set guidelines. If you sign on the dotted line on the SPA, then you've got certain obligations to make payments, so on and so forth. Now, because we are a regulated market, I personally find there's very good balance in the regulation. The investors are protected very well. The developers that are selling property are protected fairly well. Similarly, in the rental environment, the tenants are fairly protected and the landlords are fairly protected. And I'll give you one example, because people are coming to the Dubai market to invest for various reasons. One of the reasons is for stable return on investment. And I'll come to explaining what I mean by that. And sometimes in places like where rental demand's huge, but the lawlessness or the regulation is weak, you might get good, extremely high rental income. However, because the laws and the regulations are weak around that, you might end up actually not being able to enforce or collect rent on time. That's where the law is very relaxed. There are places like the UK, Europe, the US, where the laws are very strict, but this is my opinion, and I can be corrected by anybody who knows better than me in this area. But I feel that the rules and the laws skew extremely, they're very lopsided towards the tenants. So, for example, I know a couple of cases. I knew one Emirates airline pilot. His spouse was a colleague of ours, used to work with us 5-6 years ago. And I still remember he was from the US and he owned some property in California. And essentially speaking, he said, getting his tenant out was a big pain. Okay, so I'll tell you 2 or 3 stories. One from North America, then from Europe, and then from Dubai. Essentially speaking, so I'm speaking about how getting a tenant out isn't always the easiest thing in some parts of the world, but Dubai is different and there's a good balance around it, okay? So check out these horror stories. So his apartment or his property in California, the one thing that he had to do was firstly be available himself. Now, you can imagine as a senior pilot, I think he was a first officer. I think he was a captain, not the first officer, because he was quite elderly. By elderly, I think he was between 45 to 55, right? So he was pretty much a captain. He was not a first officer. So for somebody like that to be able to take time off just to be present in California to get the tenant out. And I said, why couldn't you give a power of attorney to one of the lawyers there? And he said something about the lawyer saying that you can't, because once the lawyer stands over there and is trying to make a case against the tenant to get him evicted, if the tenant says that the landlord gave him a verbal agreement to allow him to stay without rent for whatever reason, it becomes something like hearsay. So he needed him to be there and present to deny it. And then he said it was very simple. Getting the tenant out, there was no compensation to be had, regardless of how long the tenant had been staying there, 3 years, 4 years, 3 months, 4 months. The later you take action, the more you're going to suffer. And essentially speaking, he said, right before the hearing, or, the lawyer had like maybe 20 cases with him, and he stood right in the middle, and he said, and he raised his hand. And basically, essentially speaking, he said, how many people over here want to settle and leave the property, right? Hello, Ahmed. How are you? Ahmed Usul. Hello, guys. Hit the like button. Okay, appreciate it. Thank you very much. I appreciate you hitting the like button, Ahmed. So check this out. So he went to California, and the lawyer goes into the middle. The lawyer has maybe 20 or 30 cases that day, and he stands up and he yells out, which of the tenants want to leave the property? No contest, no penalties. You don't have to pay any back rent. How many of you want to leave? And so his tenant, he was blessed that this pilot's tenant said, yeah, okay, I want to leave. Like, just let me leave. Basically, the agreement between the landlord and the tenant is going to be that the tenant's allowed to leave. And he's not going to pay any back rent, nothing. Boom, that's it. Whichever tenant decided that they wanted to leave and would leave, got to leave. And this Emirates Airline pilot got his property back, and he could now re-rent it. That's one story I know from the US. Coming to the UK, so one of my very close friends, he had a property in the UK. Tenant decides not to pay, but the law, and I don't blame these countries, because sometimes these places. Okay, let me quickly, Mr. Piff Munchies, I have a question. So let me read out the question. I want to renew my lease, and I let the landlord know, but the landlord said he will think about it. I thought I had the right to renew unless he tries to evict me. You're absolutely correct. The right for automatic renewal resides with the tenant. Also, there might be some clauses in the contract that you have to give them a notice 2 months prior or anything like that. But the right is with you. So the market's going up. A lot of tenants are going to want to leave. The market's going up. The rents are going up. A lot of tenants are going to want to have their previous, leave and stuff like that, so they can re-rent it. In some cases, landlords might want to use the property themselves. Anyways, landlords need to go through a proper procedure if they need the property for themselves. And generally, that notice is 12 months given through the notary public. It's not an email or anything like that. Landlord can ask you to leave for 3 reasons: if he needs the property for himself, or a first-degree relative, and he can show that he has got no other property. Number 2, if the landlord wants to sell the property, again, you have the first right to come back to the property if the landlord doesn't sell it. And number 3, if the property needs serious repair, without which the property would be a hazard for anybody living there. So yeah, so you do have the right of renewal. It's kind of tricky. My advice to you is to not put anything in writing to the landlord that would jeopardize your renewal, and just stick to your point and ask him if he doesn't want to renew. Then send you an email. And in this scenario, also, I think this isn't legal advice, but you can always approach the real estate department and talk to them and ask them for some information with regards to what you should do as next steps. Cool. So coming back to this story, guys, if you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer. It's not a problem. Coming back to this story, so in the UK, same thing happens. So I was saying that I completely understand why the rules protect the tenant, because sometimes some of these countries are extremely harsh with the winter. So if a tenant is evicted, oh, you're welcome, Mr. Piff Munchies. I appreciate it. No worries. You're welcome. If you have any other requirements, just put them over here and I'll answer. So so I can understand why the laws like in Europe, Scandinavian countries are so protective of the tenant, because it's cold, right? So if a landlord's allowed to just evict at short notice, things can get ugly. But so for this dear friend of mine, what the landlord kept doing, or what the tenant kept doing, she kept playing with the law, right? Every few months, she would make some payment that essentially disallowed him from being able to evict her very fast. He had insurance on it, but that too did not kick in because the insurance refused to help him, because they said, you did not inform us immediately at the moment that the tenant stopped paying, right? So insurance companies are notorious. Sometimes they pay. My experience with insurance companies has always been very good. They don't cheat me, but he got cheated. And then at the end, just to let you know, if you got a bad tenant and you know that tenant's going to be very difficult, knows the law, you just give them the money. Give them some money to get rid of them, right? Going legal and the court should always actually be the last resort, not just with everything in life, right? Generally speaking, you should be able to resolve things amicably. But at the end of the day, just give your tenant 2 months rent, man. If she or he has decided to stay there for months on end, like a year, without paying you, because they've done that to the previous landlord as well, you're much better off to pay them 2 months rent and ask them to leave nicely. Of course, you can't go and offer them 2 months rent. That's why you get the professionals involved. They're going to take 4 months if you offer them 2 months. There was a recent article. This isn't a personal story, but there's a recent article that I saw in the BBC that one country in Europe, in Spain, this is an actual business. So squatters, professional squatters who are strong, have weapons, know how to defend themselves, look for empty properties. Sometimes these properties are really nice properties, and they'll go in and squat, like they'll go and live there, but with the intention to extort money from the landlord. So they don't actually sometimes they might have another place to stay. It's not like they need a place to stay, but their intention is to stay there and extort money out of the landlord, right? So they'll be very clear that, look, if you don't pay us, we're going to trash the property inside. And you're going to have to spend much more money, and which has given birth to a parallel business for people who are strong physically and can strong arm those squatters and get them out, basically, right? So there's a parallel industry that's developed in Spain. Sometimes the news kind of blows things up. Maybe it's not like happening a lot in Spain, but that's how the news is. So please, if you're Spanish, don't hold that against me. I'm just giving an example. Can happen anywhere. So essentially speaking, in Spain, these guys go and squat in your property, but they don't go there with the intention of using the property. They go there with the intention to actually stay there, to extort money from you before, so that you will pay them before they'll actually leave. That's number one. So now I've given you a couple of stories from the US, Europe, London, Spain. Things are imbalanced. In Dubai, it's not like that. The moment your tenant doesn't pay you your rent, you should technically go to the notary public and send them a notice, which is dated through Aramex or FedEx or DHL or whatever, and request them to remedy it, and you give them 30 days. After 30 days, so I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not giving you actual legal advice, but this is the general procedure. After 30 days, you can go to court. The court will take about maybe 2 months. It could be faster because things have gone electronic now, and they'll give a judgment for the tenant, against the tenant. Maybe the tenant has some grievances, genuine grievances that you haven't fulfilled. And then, hey, Fareed, hi. Is it possible to purchase property with Bitcoin, cryptocurrency? Can you explain how it can be done? Thank you. Fareed, hi. Yes. Yes, you can purchase property using crypto, Bitcoin in Dubai. generally, so if you wanted to do it the right, correct way, there is an exchange called Bit Oasis. If you are a UAE resident, you can use them. So you come into Dubai, establish yourself as a resident if you're non-resident, and use Bit Oasis to convert your crypto into actual cash into your bank account here, right? There are available facilities in Dubai market where brokers will give you cash in return for 1 to 2 to 3% fees, and you can use that in some forms to buy property. But a lot of developers don't take a lot of cash; they're not allowed. For example, Emaar will only take a one-time payment of up to 40,000 dirhams. But get in touch with us, and I'll put you in touch with somebody in my team who can explain the entire process for you. Okay. SMKGT, you're welcome. I'm happy to do these live sessions. Look, the idea, the more I've been in the Dubai market, the more I'm realizing that I want people to actually invest in the Dubai market and have a smooth bloody transition. Enough of the garbage, enough of the people complaining, they bought the wrong property, they didn't want to buy this one, they got pushed into it, agents didn't help them properly, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's time for the market to mature and for people to make good purchases in the Dubai property market that are going to bloody last them and serve them for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Enough of the garbage that used to be, because Dubai was more transient and more emerging. We're a maturing market, and a lot of brokers you'll find have been in the market 5+ years. So use them for their experience. Hi, Fahd, could you tell me about valuation certificate issued by DLD? So valuation certificate is basically your property being evaluated by the Dubai Land Department. So basically, you just approach them, pay them the fee, and they will evaluate your property. They don't visit. So from my understanding, if you're looking for a valuation certificate from Dubai Land Department, they will issue it to you. You just pay them. They don't actually visit the property. They've got all the records of all similar properties that have recently transacted, and they'll issue you a certificate of what they feel should be the market value of such a property. There's a fee involved of 4,000 dirhams or so on, something like that. Well, very simple. You can use private companies as well. Private companies might charge you less, maybe 2,500 to 3,000 dirhams, but they will actually visit the property, from what I understand. But the DLD, maybe you're looking to transfer your property to your wife or to your brother, or from a son to a father, so on and so forth. So you will need a DLD valuation so that the fee is calculated accordingly. Cool. Danush, hello. Danush, let me come to your question. SMKGT, how do they fix the market value for property? If you've got a 1-bedroom in a particular building, okay, and that building has 300 similar apartments, the per square foot price is known to the Dubai Land Department, because they're going to look at, this is my opinion, they're going to look at 3 months data, 6 months data, 1 month's data of all apartments that sold in that building, and then apartments that sold in buildings that are next to it. Now, here's the thing: you need to check. Like, for example, if you've got a villa on the Palm Jumeirah, which is customized, very high specs, you're gonna have to talk to them and explain that to them if you're looking for a high valuation. But if you're looking to actually transfer property internally, obviously you're not looking for a high valuation, right? You're looking for market price so that you can pay the fees on market price. Tanush, hello, Mr. Fahd. Hope you're doing well. Is there any scope for negotiation on a newly built apartment from a developer? Yes, Danush, there is scope. You need to actually, I wish I could guide you. There are some videos on negotiation. There are some videos on negotiation that I have already made. Look, when you're negotiating with the developer or anybody, you need these 3 things you need to know. I'll tell you, doesn't mean you'll be able to apply them, but at least you'll have the basic principles. Number 1, you need to know the developer's situation. What kind of developer it is? What kind of stock are they trying to get rid of? What is their internal situation? Are they cash crunched? Do they have tons of sales happening? Are they being incentivized, the agents at the developer, to sell a particular product as opposed to another product? For example, I'll give you an example. Large developer has a villa community in a certain area and apartments in a certain area. which are sea-facing luxury. The sea-facing area is going to sell fast. If you got a villa in Dubai South, for example, those aren't selling super fast. So you need to understand the developer's situation vis-a-vis that particular project. So you need to do the recon on the developer. You can do that yourself sometimes. You need an experienced agent to kind of dig in and understand more. Okay, it's Aldar. That's number one. So thanks for mentioning it's Aldar. Do you do Abu Dhabi? I think I mentioned to you before, Danush, I don't do Abu Dhabi, generally speaking. My team can guide you to how you might be able to negotiate, but we charge a fee of $2,000 plus 10% of anything we help you save. But hey, my advice is free here, so I'm going to give you some advice further, okay? So number one, Danush, what you want to do is you want to look at Aldar's as a developer and understand what they're selling. How do you find that? You got to make a few calls around, speak to a few other agents. That specific project you need to call. For example, if you're buying a particular project and there's already in similar buildings, things are already sold, you need to speak to people and understand what's the movement on that project. Is the developer selling 5 units a day, or are they selling 5 units in a month? Right? So you can understand if they're selling 5 units in a month, you're in a very good place because you've got more power to negotiate, number one. Number two, you need to understand the market price of that particular property. How do you do that? There's again something called the competitive CMA, competitive market analysis, CMA. Something we do on a daily basis. We compare property prices to the ready property that's available on the secondary market and to what's available from the developer. Once you've got these two, you then leverage that information. That leveraging needs to be done with templates. It's a sea-facing apartment, Manshal Sadi. Sorry, I don't know about the apartment, or the actual development, but it is what it is. So as I'm explaining to you, know and understand their situation. Are they selling a lot? Because Tanush, if you're buying like a 3-bedroom sea-facing and the price is a certain point, and the apartment's been with the developer for over 4 months, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, been on the market, obviously you have more power to be able to negotiate. Number two, once you know the market price for similar properties that might be on the secondary market, and then you need to compare that with what kind of a deal you're getting from the developer, right? So you got to also understand that with the secondary market, if you buy, you're going to pay 100%. With the developer, you're going to get a payment plan most likely. Maybe you can save some money on the agency fees. Yes, Danush, we do negotiations on behalf of client against developer. Not against, I don't want to say against, because we're trying to create a win-win situation. We charge a fee for that. You can message me on WhatsApp. My number is on YouTube, and I can explain this further to you. But I really, honestly, would happily advise you to check out the videos I've actually made on negotiations, and you'll be in a good better position to be able to get a great deal out of it, right? So I'm just saying that. But you're welcome to actually WhatsApp me, and we're happy to discuss it further. Yeah. So I was coming back to, guys, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer. Oh, thank you, Danush. Thank you. I've already watched almost all of your videos. That's awesome. I appreciate that. I'm really starting to vibe. Before, I used to not be like too much on live. I'll try to go live more, but I'm really, really starting to vibe with the people watching my videos, and I really appreciate it. Thanks very much, and thanks for joining this live session as well. So Abu Dhabi, get in touch, and then we'll discuss this further offline. So I just wanted to bring that point home with regards to the Dubai real estate market. It's actually very, very stable when it comes to the rentals. If a tenant ends up not paying, there's a quick process. Now here's the thing: because Dubai, everybody's here to actually make a living, doesn't want to get into trouble with the law, most tenants will pay. If they're rude, choose not to pay, choose to ignore the judgments, court's going to give you a judgment pretty fast. You can evict them, you can re-rent the property, but the tenant can't fly out. They get a travel ban, unless they actually pay what's owed to you in the judgment. And this can take up to 2 months or 3 months. But within 3 months, you got the tenant out. And in most cases, those tenants are going to pay, unless they've already skipped the country and they've actually left. Which in that case, then you don't. Then it's going to be slightly more difficult to be able to get them to pay you. And then obviously, if they've actually already skipped the country, then it's going to be a challenge, right? Okay, so if you guys have any more questions, I'm happy to take them. No worries. Just please shoot them to me. And I'm going to make this going live a regular fixture so that I could actually benefit people. What do you think about Dubai South projects? Do you think 5 years down the line, such distance from the city center becomes normal? Yeah, it does actually. You've kind of answered your own question. So I'll give you a backstory from 2007. Back in 2004, 2005, in Arabian Ranches, I'm sure you're familiar with Arabian Ranches, was launched. It was hot. It was good. But there were still some people, I was born and raised in Dubai, and Arabian Ranches was out there. So a lot of people, like one of my original mentors and partners in real estate, I think by 2006, he was looking at some villas in the 4 million range. By 2007, when he decided that, Arabian Ranch is pretty good, Al Khail Road has opened, and, things are all good, Emirates Road, Khail Road, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Road, Al Khail Road, all these roads are good, and with the connectivity is amazing. Prices have gone beyond his reach to 7-8 million for similar villas. Yes, they came down afterwards, but then obviously his buying capacity also went down because he'd lost some money in Dubai real estate as well. Together, actually, we made investments because we were partners. So, and then the story, so on, right? Arabian Ranches has developed into a premium villa community. Like it's a hot spot. People outside Dubai have heard about it. Some people actually find it a little bit old, but that's fine. But people like what they like. A lot of houses get upgraded. Houses hold value there, so on and so forth. That's the story of Arabian Ranches, right? So put Dubai South and think about that, right? And think about Dubai's vision and the way infrastructure gets built, right? So the world's largest aerotropolis is getting built there. Jebel Ali Port is over there. It's close to Abu Dhabi. I'm sure you recognize a lot of people are commuting between Abu Dhabi and Dubai. The borders are kind of like getting meshed together. A lot of people from Abu Dhabi come to Dubai. A lot of people from Dubai go to Abu Dhabi. It's like a continuous thing, right? So that place, Dubai South, I personally believe, just like any other city, will develop and will have actually an opportunity. Hi, Deepak. I will answer your question. Just give me 1 second. I'm trying to finish up with SMKGT, but I recognize your question. I'll read it just in a minute. So what you're going to find is Dubai South's going to develop because you gotta recognize Dubai's vision and commitment to getting things done, right? So 2008, when the global financial crisis happened, a lot of people thought, okay, Dubai is done, the world's done, right? Dubai was not done. 2009, September, they delivered the metro. 10 metro stations, but then all the rest came online, right? Burj Khalifa gets delivered January 4th. Expo 2020 gets done. They finish it. The whole place has got to develop. It's very close to Dubai South. Dubai will probably come up with something very unique for that area, for those pavilions to get used. Those aren't going to just get dismantled, in my personal opinion. And we're still looking, and we're still at the early stages of the the expo. So we'll see how it develops, right? So in 5 years, that place will develop. Trying to answer it short because my team doesn't like me to talk too long. But here's the thing, SMKGT, what you need to understand is it the right investment for you, right? For example, if I was investing today in the Dubai market, deploying a large fund of over $100 million, I would definitely pick up stuff over there. But if I'm picking up today and I need liquidity in 3 years or 2 years, I wouldn't buy over there, right? So if I want capital appreciation to come faster, I would not buy over there. There's other areas that I would recommend. Okay, Deepak. Hello, hi Deepak Joshi. Hi Fahd, I understand Dubai apartment prices have not substantially increased in comparison to villas, townhouses. What do you recommend an investor if he's considering buying a villa townhouse? Again, Deepak, for me to be able to actually recommend to any investor, so you've said two things. One is the apartment prices have not gone up as comparison to villas and townhouses. That's very normal in any market. So what you've seen is sale prices have gone up, and you're seeing that there's a lag of 6 months, and rental prices have started going up. Rental prices have started going up, by the way, in both categories, villas and apartments. That's number one. Number two, you got to remember, a lot of people attribute the prices of villas and townhouses going up because there was a pandemic and people wanted to move to more space. I personally don't believe in that theory as 100% true. Maybe there's parts of it. The reason I personally think is because, people had just been saving money, looking for the right opportunity for the market to bottom out. And when prices hit rock bottom during the pandemic, they came in because villa and townhouse prices went really low. And if you've got a bunch of money, cash, and you can afford a villa or townhouse, you're going to buy one of those. You're not going to buy an apartment. But what's happening now in villa townhouses prices, as they keep going up and climbing up, there are people who are going to get priced out of that market. What comes next? Apartments, right? So if you were looking at townhouses, 3 beds, you're going to start looking at apartments instead of townhouses, because the price has just gone way too much above. What do you recommend an investor if he is considering buying a villa or townhouse? Here's my personal thing. I can't recommend a villa or a townhouse or a particular community. It has to be very customized to you. And I'll explain this to you. Some people like the quiet, right? One of my recent investors, he wants a golf course, right? He plays golf 4 or 5 times. I can't give him a community close to downtown. In fact, there is a community close to downtown, and there is a golf course close to downtown, but it's not a real golf course. It's a 9-hole golf course that doesn't actually, it's not a proper golf course, right? For a real golfer, it doesn't exist. So he has to move to the golf, right? Other people, they want closer living to downtown. For others, it's about capital appreciation in a quicker time period. For some others, they want something that's very good quality. They don't want to be crying over the quality of the finish. So it depends, and then it depends, and then it depends, right? So it depends on your taste, your family's taste, because there's maybe about 20 plus freehold villa and townhouse communities. And doing the due diligence and making sure that we find the right property for our clients, when they're engaged with me and my team, we go through the process of making sure we're getting the right property. Deepak, you've got. I hope I was able to answer. Deepak, you've got another question follow-up. Between 2019 March and currently, how do you see the price of the buy property percentage-wise? How much have they increased? I think in some areas they've gone up by 30 to 45% or 30 to 40% between March 2019 and currently. I will look for an index. So generally speaking, there's something called Property Monitor. They've got very good reports. But what I would actually do is I would look at an index of where the prices are, right? But now I'm going to give you for instance, let's look District 1 villas. Property Finder. So Property Finder at the bottom always also has a very nice projection, and you can actually see how much the price has kind of like gone up on villa. I'm looking at something that's luxury, but still it'll be like give or take a couple of percentage points. True for other places as well. So just give me a moment. I'm trying to load this up on Property Finder, because Property Finder has. Just give me 1 second. I see your question. So I'm looking at a property close to the gate in District 1. And so the price trends. So unfortunately, I can only see. So this is for Deepak. I can see that the price has gone up 19.14%, but this is from October 2020 to current, right? So there's a 1 year the one year thing that I'm looking at now. It's gone up by 19%. So if you go back further, March 2019 prices were lower, right? Because March 2019, I remember the market was, crying a little bit. It was slow. It was, people weren't sure what's going to happen, and then 2020, the pandemic hit. But post-pandemic, for example, by October, November, prices started going up. So March 2019, prices were pretty low. Cool. They weren't high, by the way, so they were low. Okay, so just the 1 year, there is a 19% I've seen for District 1 villas. Okay, they're 12 million higher end, but it cascades across the market to the other places as well. Arjun Manoj, hello, Mr. Fahd. How are you doing these days? Arjun, thank you very much. I'm doing well. I hope you are also well. SM, hello. Thank you for putting out great content. I love watching your video. I really appreciate your kind comments as well, coming back to me. It's good energy being exchanged, and I love to create more good content for you. I appreciate you taking the time to put a comment there. There's somebody else. Oh, again, SMKGT. I own a villa, Jumeirah Park, in a community which shows, I'm familiar with the community. It's a great community which shows a good favorable price point. I was wondering, take advantage of that, or is it like killing the golden goose? Very good question. Thanks, SF. So it's a great question, right? So what I would do is I would do a pros and cons analysis, right, on that villa. Okay, and there's a lot of things. Like what you would do is you would go macro and then come micro, right? So look at the macro situation of the globe, of Dubai in general. Look, there's inflation happening. Asset prices are going up. If you sell this villa, what are you going to buy, right? Because the price, if you sell it at a high point, every other asset has also gone up. But now, if you had an opportunity to take it and put it in a great business, which is going to give you 30, 40% return, boom, the decision is super fast, right? You make it. Thank you, SMKGT. So you go from macro to micro, right? So you look at global economy, a lot of people coming to Dubai, where's the dollar at? Talk to the experts, collapses, survives. Bitcoin, a lot of crypto has flowed into Dubai. Not a crypto has flowed, but people who've made a lot of money in crypto are coming to Dubai to live and spend it, right? So you've got lots of money flowing around globally, right? Till when does that continue, right? That's number one. Number two, then you keep pressing down to the Dubai situation, right? Expo, World Cup, conferences happening, a lot of people moving into Dubai. There's going to be demand. Then you keep going further in. Look at the developer, right? Master developers, Nakheel, right? So Nakheel's an interesting developer, right? They've got these high-end developments like Palm Jumeirah, and then they've got these low-end developments like International City, right? So Arjun, I'll answer your question about the crypto. Deepak, you're welcome. I hope the explanation made sense. I'm happy to actually give you that explanation. Coming back to SMKGT's question about the Jumeirah Park Villa, Nakheel's a very interesting developer. We've always said that Nakheel leaves a lot of value on the table as compared to Emaar sometimes, right? Which is good, because if you buy a Nakheel villa like Jumeirah Park, the plots were bigger, right? If Emaar was doing Jumeirah Park, the plots would be smaller, so they could produce more villas. But Nakheel gave more space because I guess they found a niche or a need for that. But I'm not sure if all tenants want larger gardens, because sometimes the water prices are high, right? Some people don't want to pay that. So now coming down to that, like, how's Nakheel handling the community? Has Nakheel been making improvements? Have they finally made it a gated community? So on and so forth. It's called Jumeirah Park, but I don't know if there's a real park over there. But still, Jumeirah Park is still very good because Nakheel's kind of handled it still fairly well. They've sold a lot of plots recently. How is that going? Okay. Then you look at the actual location of the villa. Okay. Then, where exactly is it? Okay. Is it losing favor in the way it's actually made, right? I personally think that the 3-bedroom villas, they're going to be challenged. Like, 3-bedroom villas are challenges. In my personal opinion, right? The reason they're a challenge, I think, is because people who can afford the villas will want to go for the 4 bedrooms, and the 3 bedrooms Yes, it is a beautiful community. I completely agree. It's a beautiful community. Lots of people like to live there, and the location is also very close to Sheikh Zayed Road, right? So those things. Now, is there anything that's hampering the villa, right? Is there something good coming close to it? Is there something not so great coming close to it, right? One of the things about Jumeirah Park is very close to Sheikh Zayed Road, right? So it's compared to some of the other communities where you have to, really spend about 15-20 minutes going further in. Jumeirah Park's much closer to Sheikh Zayed Road. It's right behind GLT. It literally takes about 10 minutes or 5 minutes of that. So you look at all of those and then you make a decision like, no, I hold the villa. Because if you sell it, what are you going to invest into again, right? You have to have a vision, a plan for the portfolio. You can't sell it and then be sitting with cash, because cash is going to play dead, right? It's not going to generate more cash for you. So you should have a plan on where you're going to invest, and then be very mindful of how the villa is doing, right? One of the things, if you've got a tenant in there, I would very strongly, because some of those villas are coming to 5 years, some of them closer to 8 or 9 years. I would start putting 20% of your rental income towards upgrades, right? So the bathrooms, the kitchen cabinetry. So 20% every year I would put to the side to be able to upgrade that stuff, because it's good. Arjun, because I've heard that banks are pretty hard, I don't think that banks are necessarily hard on crypto. If you can show them the funds coming into a certain way, which is BitOasis, and it's your cryptocurrency, I don't believe that the banks are extremely hard. If you can show it to them, you can show them the transfers, you can show them where the money's coming from. It's not something that's super, super difficult. Cool. So, guys, if you don't have any other questions, I really appreciate you coming online. It's been a pleasure. SMKGT, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm really glad I went live. For the people who joined, I'm super, super happy, because we were able to exchange some really good energy. Hi, Fahd, Kiran, Jerry. Hi, Fahd. What, according to you, should one look at while choosing a location to buy a property? Again, it depends on your particular personal goals, but I can imagine you're a first-time buyer, perhaps in Dubai. You look at metro connectivity, infrastructure around the place, amenities in the area or close by, schools, hospitals. Is it in a community? I would, Kiran, just one thing before I leave. I would highly recommend that you should focus on communities that are master planned, so that the investment can hold on its own, but also get a lot of value from the rest of the community, that you as an individual don't have to pay too much money for maintenance. For example, Dubai Hills Estate is a great community. If you own an apartment, villa, townhouse over there, you're paying service charges for, yes, maintenance of the community, but somebody else is taking care of it, but you're holding value. But Kiran, for example, if you were looking for a 5 to 10%, 5 to 10 year exit window, you'd look at locations that are not fully developed today. For you would want to look at locations which are going to be developed in the future, like Dubai South, right? Because if you go into a developed location with the metro station nearby, Burj Khalifa nearby, schools nearby, guess what? You're going to be paying a premium to the person who already bought before you, right? So again, Kiran, look, reach out to us if you wish to work with our team. There's a standard procedure that we follow to be able to analyze what area, location, properties work best for you. There isn't a one size fits all, because there's 25 plus freehold communities in Dubai. Not everything is going to be good for you. Maybe 3 or 4 of those will work as a good location for you as an individual investor, based on your personal particular requirements. Cool, Kiran. I appreciate it, guys. Ciao for now. We're coming on to about 45 minutes. I really, really appreciate you guys and the questions as well. I'll do it more frequently. You can follow me on Instagram, because I generally announce it over there, and you'll be able to know when I'm actually doing it. The next live, it'll probably be the same time, 8 p.m. Sunday, stuff like that, or Tuesday as well. It could be. All right, ciao for now, guys. See you on the other side. Have a very good evening. Bye. Thank you very much, Kiran. I appreciate your question. please bring them. Keep them coming. I'm happy for you to ask me questions again on the next house file as well. Thanks very much. Have a good night. Bye.